Hello learners, I hope you are doing well and you're finding the sessions interesting and useful. I'm Ajit K. Mishra. I'm here again with another session on well-being. In this session, I'll walk you through the world of emotional well-being. If you remember, in our last session, I talked about psychological well-being. Psychological well-being and emotional well-being are very closely connected concepts. Emotional well-being is the ability to produce positive emotions, moods, thoughts, and feelings, and adapt when confronted with adversity and stressful situations. One of its foundations is resilience, which allows us to navigate challenging life events. Emotional well-being is absolutely essential if we have to survive and do well in this world, because it helps us take care of a lot of things that we have to encounter in our everyday life. Before we can understand what emotional well-being is all about and we can ensure our own emotional well-being, it's very important that we understand emotions extremely well, because emotions are one of those things that still baffle humanity and people still struggle with some meaning that they want to ascribe to their emotions. And that's why it's a complex thing when it comes to emotions, and it's not very easy for us to understand or explain what we mean by emotions. But some concerted approach to our understanding of emotions can help us take care of our emotions very well. So if we go by Aristotle's definition of emotions, emotions are all those feelings that so change men as to affect their judgments. So emotions can affect our judgments either in the positive or the negative way, and that are also attended by pain or pleasure. That means emotions can lead to pain or pleasure in us. So we can feel sad, we can feel angry, which is again quite painful. We can also feel scared, afraid, again painful. But on the other hand, we can also feel happy, pleased, and contented. So it can also be attended by other kinds of emotions like anger, pity, fear, and the like, with their opposites. So we have all kinds of emotions. On a panel, we can see one type of emotions that have a positive valence, and on the other side of the same panel, we can see the same emotions with their negative valence. So according to Aristotle, emotions play a very important role in our overall well-being. The second definition of emotion that I have picked for your information is by Paul Ekman, who started a scholarly discussion on emotions in the modern times. According to him, emotions change how we see the world and how we interpret the actions of others. So it's very simple and straight. How we see the world, whether I see the world as scary, disturbing, challenging, or I see the world as a place that comforts me, that gives me a contentment or happiness. And how we interpret the actions of others. Does the action of one of my friends scare me, or it makes me feel comfortable? So emotions are all about all these things. There are a few other components of emotions that we need to look at. So let's take a look at these important components. Let's start with the first one, that is, emotions can be specific or general. It's not really necessary that emotions will always be very specific or they will always be very general. They can vary, they can fluctuate from being specific to being general. So some emotions are very specific, of course, insofar as they concern a particular person, object, situation, because whenever I come across a person, if I experience the same kind of emotion, that emotion is very specific to that particular person. Same is the case with any object, or it can be any situation. That particular situation makes me very anxious, fearful, or even sad. So if I experience the same kind of emotions every time I come across a situation, a person, or an object, that means those emotions have become specific to me. On the other hand, there are certain other emotions that are not very specific. They're general. They are generally experienced. There are certain emotions like distress, happiness, or joy. They are very, very general when it comes to being experienced by people. So, happiness may not be very, very specific. There may be several things that make us happy, or that make us feel depressed, or that make us feel sad, or scared, or even distressed. So, emotions can be specific or general. Emotions can also be brief and long-lasting. This is a very important aspect of emotions, because if certain emotions are brief, they're not going to disturb us, they're not going to harm our relationships, harm our social, psychological presence. But if emotions are long-lasting, they are certainly going to harm our overall well-being. So there are certain emotions that are very brief, and most often we are not even conscious of those emotions. That it can be a sudden flush of embarrassment or a burst of anger. For example, I suddenly lose my cool on one of my colleagues, but that lasts for just 5 minutes. Thereafter, I say, I'm sorry for that behavior of mine, and we patch up and we move on. That is an instance of an emotion which is very, very brief. But there are other instances where emotions are not brief. They are very, very long-lasting. For example, it can be an emotion of love, or simmering resentment, or even the other kinds of, say, brooding behavior, loneliness, sadness, and all these emotions are so protracted that they last for hours, months, and sometimes even years. And in those cases, they become extremely harmful, and they begin to influence and they begin to impact the overall personality or disposition of a person. So we need to be very, very careful whenever we come across emotions, so that we can determine whether emotions are brief or long-lasting. So we can think of doing things that can make our emotions brief, even those long-lasting emotions. But if an emotion is long-lasting, then we have to be very careful that we take care of it. Emotions can also be visible or invisible. For example, there are certain emotions that are reflected on our faces or facial expressions, gestures, postures, but there are certain other emotions that one might be experiencing at a certain time, and those emotions may not be visible in any manner. So an emotion may be pronounced through physical accompaniments. It can be a facial expression, as I just said, or it may be completely invisible to others. So an emotion may involve a conscious experience and reflection, as in when one wallows in it, or it may pass virtually unnoticed or even unacknowledged by us. So there are several emotions that visit us, and we are not aware of most of those emotions. We are aware of only those emotions that figure as strong emotions in us. So emotions can be visible or invisible. Emotions can also be profound or trivial. So some emotions can be very, very strong and profound. Some others can be not so strong. They can be trivial. So an emotion can be profound in the sense that it is essential to one's physical survival or mental health. Or it may be trivial or even dysfunctional. So an emotion may be socially appropriate or inappropriate. It may even be socially obligatory. For example, feeling remorse after committing a crime or feeling grief at a funeral. So when we go to attend funerals, we may feel that particular grief which is being experienced by the family members of the deceased person. So that's exactly where an emotion may not be very, very profound. It can be very trivial and short lasted, but we experience those emotions. On the other hand, certain emotions can be very profound, and it can be so strong that we cannot stop ourselves. So attending a funeral can actually lead to both kinds of emotions. It can be very profound if we are associated with the person, we are related with the person, and we are related to the family and its members, then we can experience the same kind of profundity that the family members are experiencing. Otherwise, it will be less profound or even trivial. So that is how we come across these different aspects of emotions. So emotional well-being, which is otherwise called hedonia, the opposite of hedonia is anhedonia, that is emotional dysfunction. That means whenever we are not experiencing emotional well-being, that is anhedonia. So emotional well-being is hedonia. It is all about the balance of feelings, positive and negative. We cannot guarantee that we'll continue to have only positive feelings and no negative feelings will ever visit us. That cannot be the case. So we cannot stop negative feelings from visiting us, from challenging us, from disturbing us. But emotional well-being is all about creating a balance of feelings which are experienced in life and the perceived feelings, happiness and satisfaction. So while creating a balance of feelings like positive and negative, we can actually perceive certain other feelings like happiness and satisfaction. If there is no happiness, if there is no sadness, we'll not feel like being driven. Sadness also drives us because it promptly pushes us into the survival mode, and then we suddenly feel very, very disturbed, discomforted, and then we'll be activated to find our way out of that particular state so that we can return to what we call the safe mode. So they drive us. Emotions determine thought and behavior, of course. They determine how we think and how we behave. So, if I'm experiencing anger, my thought processes will be influenced by that particular emotion. And then my behavior, the outcome of my thought process in the form of my behavior will also be influenced by that particular emotion. So, if I'm angry, I'll not feel like speaking to people, I'll not feel like getting along with people in my workplace. So I'd definitely like people to leave me alone. So when I say that, that means I'm experiencing anger. I'm behaving in a very strange, in a very awkward, in an unacceptable manner. So our thought, our behaviors are deeply influenced by our emotions. Emotions also determine our decision making in the right or the wrong way. So sometimes emotions, for example, if I'm in a happy state, in a contented, satisfied state, my decision-making power will certainly enhance. If I'm feeling very angry, I'm very sad, I'm very scared, so my decision-making power will come down considerably. So my decision-making abilities will be determined by my emotions as well. So we need to take care of our emotions. Emotions also motivate us to act, maybe in the right manner or in the wrong manner. For example, if somebody makes me angry, I would feel like either hurting the person physically or verbally. I'll feel motivated to act in a certain manner. If I'm feeling very happy, satisfied, then I can always act in a very positive, in a very constructive manner. So emotions motivate us to act. For example, somebody falls in love, that person will be motivated to take care of the partner, to do things for the partner, to show care for the partner, and then to get things for the partner, and to spend time with the partner as well. So the partner's well-being will be the objective of this particular person who is in love. So the motivation to act in a certain manner is actually derived from the kind of emotions we are experiencing. Emotions also develop interpersonal relationships. So I have already talked about this particular thing in great detail, how emotions develop great interpersonal relationships. At the same time, emotions also help survive existential challenges. For example, there are several existential challenges. One of them is fear, the other of them is loneliness or isolation. So these are some of these existential challenges that emotions can help us survive, can overcome. So that way, emotions actually perform very important life functions. And we need to be extremely careful when it comes to emotions. I'm sure you have taken note of the things that I talked about in this session, and you're going to explore those things yet further. When I meet you again with a new session, I'll be talking about some other aspects of emotional well-being. So until then, it is bye-bye.